one's going to be a bit controversial, but keep in mind, this is all in the spirit of, you know, people who may not know about Islam or may have been raised in a different religion or have been non-believers, have been known to ask questions like this. So it's just, you know, kind of
Listen,
putting it to the
no
test,
judgments
so to
here. No
speak. No
judgments here. You're
judgment.
asking, yeah.
So what I find interesting is the whole idea of free choice. So
Mhm.
in Hud, Surah 11, for those following along, 118, it says, had your Lord so willed, he would have certainly made humanity one single community of believers, but they will always choose to differ, except those shown mercy by your Lord, and so he created them to choose freely. And so the word of your Lord will be fulfilled. I will surely fill up hell with jinn and humans altogether. Now, many people ask this question, that if God could make a community of nothing but believers, if God has the choice of making it so that everyone could earn heaven, why would God instead choose human suffering, or instead give free choice in that particular area for humans to choose?
Your questions, each one is more beautiful than the last, honestly. I love these. Okay, so to answer the first part of your question, if God could create a human being, or could create this being that does not disobey God in any fashion, and everything is perfect. First of all, let me ask you, do you think that that's something that's difficult for God?
Well, no. It says, I mean, he could do that if he so willed.
Mm-hmm. Case in point is angels.
Mm-hmm.
Angels are created from light. And they are created, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. They don't disobey God in any fashion, and they do exactly what they're told. Meaning, they're perfect. They're perfect beings. You know what I
Right.
mean? Human beings. So they don't have that free will to disobey God. They're not furnished like that. Had God wanted to create the human being and to create the jinn, the celestial beings, these other, the demons. That's what they are, demons, right? Because they're created from fire, we're created from clay. Had God wanted to create us like he created the angels, he would have done that. But that's not what God wanted, right? So there's this verse in Surah Al-Baqarah where the angels ask God. I'm just going to put this aside. I'm just going to go from memory. There's this verse in Surah Al-Baqarah. There's this chapter in Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow or the heifer, where the angels, where God says to the angels, "Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa." I am going to place this new leader, this new sovereign on earth. Now, a khalifa usually means that someone is coming to take over, right? It means that someone is coming after this, like a supervisor or like a substitute teacher or something like that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So that means that the jinn were here before us, right? The angels ask God, "We're not going against you, oh God. We're just trying to figure out what this means. Like, what's the wisdom behind it?" قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك. They're like, are you going to place on earth one that is going to shed blood and corrupt on earth? In other words, we already had this trial run with the jinn. We've seen them corrupt. We've seen them shed blood. We had to punish them. We had to take them to these oceans. We had to really, we had our work cut out for us, right?
Right.
And now you're saying that you're going to create another being that is like this jinn, that's going to have free will, that's going to shed blood and corrupt, because that's their frame of reference,
Mm-hmm.
right? God says, "Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun." I know what you don't know.
I know.
They said, we just want to understand the wisdom behind it. We're not going against you. In other words, if you want this creation to worship you, we'll worship you, oh God. Like, and we'll do it even better than the jinn. We'll do it better than this new creation, right? We'll
Mm-hmm.
worship you. We just don't want to see any more of this bloodshed. We don't want to see any more of this corruption, all of this fasad. What is the wisdom behind it? And then he says, "Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun." I know what you don't know. That verse is so beautiful to me. When someone says, "Listen, I got this," you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It means that they know something that you don't, and they know that letting things happen as they're going to happen is better for everyone else. And this means that God knew that from the children of Adam, from this new creation that's going to be on this earth, there's going to be honest people. There's going to be truthful people. There's going to be those that are martyrs. There's going to be messengers. There's going to be those that are going to stand up for right and forbid what's wrong. Right? Now, this is what the free will is. Angels, they don't have that free will. Human beings have that free will. And by the fact that we are choosing to worship God and fast for God and give in the way of God and spread knowledge and come together for God, that means that we're doing it out of our own free will. That's what makes us above the angels, because we're doing it by our own choice, right? However, if we choose not to, if we choose to reject all of that, if we choose to, out of our own free will, I know all the answers, like all of the answers are right here. You know what I mean? God gave you this how-to book. How do you succeed in this world and in the next? You know what I mean?
Right.
He gave you all the answers. He told you how do you write your name. He told you everything, right? This is how you succeed. And you still say, I don't want to do this. You got to be some special type of ignorant to reject all of this and be like, no, I don't want this. This is, you're doing that out of your own free will. It's not, لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. You're not going to be affected by the ones that are going astray if you yourself are upright, right? If you yourself are good with God, you're not going to be affected by those who are going astray. So the people that chose to reject God, that's what makes them worse than beasts. That's what makes them worse than demons, essentially. Right? So, إِنَّهُمْ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. These people are like these animals that graze, cows and chickens and things like that, but they're even worse off because animals know why they were created, right? But
Right.
for you to go about life not knowing what the meaning is of life and I don't care, there's no purpose and blah, 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 you're even worse off than these animals is what God says. You know what I mean? So you're just existing, Now, the whole idea of free will is, you mentioned before we get to that. I'm trying to remember the questions that you asked, from memory. You mentioned about you would earn paradise. Paradise is never earned. Paradise is never earned. We enter paradise out of the mercy of God. Right? There's this one story of a man that all he did his entire life was worship God, always praying constantly for 500 years, right? That's his whole thing. And, on Judgment Day, he was told, enter my paradise out of my mercy. And he says, wait, hold up. And he says, what? And he's like, I don't want to enter out of your mercy. I want to enter out of my deeds. So you know what God said? Okay, take him to the fire. You think you're going to enter the paradise because of your actions? That's not going to get you there. And that's what God says. This is when we enter paradise, hopefully we're written of the people of paradise, and may God ward off from us the punishment of the fire. Is ادخلوا الجنة بما صبرتم, ادخلوا الجنة بما كنتم تعملون, ادخلوا الجنة بما enter paradise as a result. Bima ba'u sababiyya is the as a result of the patience you had displayed. Because you were patient in this world with all of these trials, all of these calamities, bima, as a result of your patience, now enter paradise, right? Not out of your actions, because of your patience. Udkhulul jannah bima kuntum ta'malun. Enter paradise as a result of what you did, right? And this doesn't have to do with any of that. It's the actions that we do that draws us closer to God, right? And that's what enters us into His mercy, and that's what enters us into His paradise. Enter into my servitude and enter into my paradise. Right? So that's what that means.